Hi there, it's Nicole here today with a floral background with a big die cut greeting from the floral background. And this is all created with a big background stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and then a big die cut and an additional stamped greeting. Very simple, but so beautiful. I love the new backgrounds from Simon Says Stamp. They have quite a few now, and I think they're just gorgeous. I am using the Misty to stamp the new Flora background here on some Bristol Smooth cardstock. This is A2 size, so 5.5 by 4.25. Once I have my embossing powder in place, I am going to heat this with my embossing gun. If you saw my Mother's Day card, which will be linked at the end of this video, it's a very similar technique. So stamping the image with, or the background with Versamark ink, and then embossing with white embossing powder, and then coloring in with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers and a water brush pen for that watercolored look. You're essentially creating your own pattern paper. What I love about the embossing, if you've seen any of my videos about the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers before, where I've talked about watercoloring with them, what is so incredible is the embossed areas hold that ink in. So they're almost create little wells for holding in all of that color. I like to start in the center and kind of work my way out. Here I kind of worked my way out clear to the corner, and then I'm going to work my way all the way around this panel. It does take a little bit of time to color in. You could speed it up if you don't want to. You do not have to add water to this. The colors blend beautifully without. In fact, many of the green leaves were blended with the two green colors and no addition of water. It's really just kind of whatever you feel comfortable with. The haze blue for the background, I also didn't use water for it. But I just love the effect. The main focal point of this card, and for that matter my Mother's Day card, which was very similar in design at least, is the background. It's the pattern that you're creating here. You simply want to add your greetings to this because the background is the focal point. You've spent so much time and effort coloring this in, making it beautiful. You don't want to cover it up with a bunch of things. And that's why I came up with the die cut greeting from this pattern paper background. I have seen this technique around as well. I shouldn't have said I came up with it. I didn't come up with it, but I thought it would be fantastic for this technique. That way you still see the amazing pattern that you've colored in, but you have that dimensional greeting popping up from the background. And it's super easy to do with just a couple of great tools, which are Fun Foam and some Stick-It adhesive. They make this so easy to create a dimensional greeting. I am just going to continue coloring this all in, and then once this is completely dry, we're going to move on to adding the greetings. Basically, this is the majority of the card, is simply coloring it all in. Because it's white on white, like I said, it kind of tends to be a little easier, I think, if you'll start in the center coloring and then gradually work your way out. It helps if you're trying to keep that pattern going and want every little section to be, to repeat, I guess is what I want to say. I think it helps a lot. So as I work my way out and kind of keep going around, then I start filling in the corners. And generally at this point, I'm going to kind of just work my way around. I'm sorry my head is in the way. I was having to get kind of close to make sure that I was getting everything all colored in exactly where I needed to. With the white on white, like I said, it can be a little tricky. I've got some black cardstock here, and I'm going to stamp a greeting from the Simon Says Stamp Thankful Heart stamp set. This is probably one of my very favorite greeting stamp sets. I just love it. I'm going to stamp, again, my sentiment phrase here, "You are simply the best," with Versamark ink, and heat emboss this with white embossing powder. before cutting it into a thin strip. And this is the only element on the card that is going to cover up any of the design. And it really doesn't take away from the design. It's a very small element. I'll be snipping it down and trimming it to fit right above the die cut word hugs. So here is my background. Here is that big hugs die from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to position it kind of on the lower half of the landscape style panel, right below the halfway mark, if that makes sense. I am going to use a little Post-it tape or a little low-tack tape to hold that down while I run it through the die cutting machine. Then you want to keep everything. You want to keep the panel, you want to keep the die cut, and you want to keep those little pieces that pop out from the loops in the H and the G. Now I find it kind of easier to go ahead and apply my adhesive to my card base. I've got a white side fold card base here from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to cover it with a nice strong adhesive and then take my panel to my card base, line that up perfectly, and that is going to be flush against the card base. Then I have got a piece of fun foam that I've backed with Stick It on both sides to make both sides sticky. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut that again with the word hugs and pull that out and remove the backing paper from the back of the word hugs and replace that into the die cut hugs on the card. So just carefully maneuver that so that the dimensional fun foam greeting fits into that die cut panel from your colored background. Just kind of press that in place. And then I'm going to snip my greeting strip down just a little bit. See where I want to gauge that. And I'm going to tuck one end kind of underneath that top straight line from the letter H in hugs. Also put some adhesive on the back of this so I can attach it. But I want this to sit right on top of the word hugs. And once I get that where I want it to go, I can snip the other end down a little bit. In fact, I think I left it a little too long. I'll snip off just a tiny bit more, about 1/8 of an inch more. Whatever you personally like. And the greetings can change. There are lots of great big greetings that I think would be amazing. I'm going to replace some adhesive or put a little liquid adhesive where all of those little inside pieces go. Those pieces need to be flush with the card like the background, like it's never been altered. And I'm just using a piercing tool to stick those down there. I'm going to remove the backing paper from the front side of the fun foam now. This is why the Stick It comes in so handy. It makes everything a sticker. And then I'm simply going to take and replace that die cut word hugs from that background paper. Again, that's why we're keeping everything and using it, and adhere it right over the dimensional fun foam. So you get that great dimensional greeting that is your background panel, but it pops up a little bit and adds such a fun interest. I did need to trim off just a little bit off the edge of my card there. My card base was slightly smaller than the panel that I stamped and colored. So I even had to trim a little off the top as well. And at this point, your card can be completely finished. I did take some glossy accents now and add little dabs of it to any of the yellow areas on the card. Only the yellow areas. It's going to add some nice subtle dimension, nice little glossy raised areas, and it's just another way to make the background really interesting and fun. You could use Nouveau Crystal drops if you wanted to, and replace the centers of those flowers with some dimensional yellow or something like that. This is just glossy accents. One of my favorite ways to add some subtle gloss and shine to certain areas of a card design. Once this is done, I will let this completely sit and dry, and this Flora background Big Hugs card is all finished. Thanks for joining me today for this card focusing on backgrounds featuring Simon Says stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Here are a couple more videos featuring Simon Says stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.